Jingari. Welcome again to the Cultural Connections series. It's very important to recognise we're on tourable country and to acknowledge all of those that have walked upon this country before, all of those elders past and present, and our emerging and cooperating generations. Our focus today is upon the nature of technology and how the technologies have survived 65,000 years. This is a chance to share some of those old technologies and to find out in a brief way the way in which they work and can be shared for future generations. Tools are of particular importance, and the technology around tools, which seems very simple, has been worked out over many generations. A part of that is the system of law which operates as to who can operate a particular tool. And it's not about OH&S, it's about the nature of a traditional custodial pattern and a spiritual and emotional understanding of how that particular tool is going to be used. So some of the things we'll look at today in our technology would be the boomerang, the woomera, the digging stick, some of the spears, some of the opportunities for weaving. It's very important that we recognise that there are often distinct roles for males and females. Many of the men used some of the tools at various occasions, whereas women were often restricted, for example, in the use of spears in terms of their hunting environments. However, if they were a good hunter and they had a dog that was very, very useful, then they were taken out and women were allowed to hunt. But the rules vary because we have such varied groups throughout Australia. In our technology series, weaving is particularly important. The use of baskets, especially in the northern part of Australia, is very common and into Papua New Guinea. These particular baskets are made of grasses which are taken, joined together, often 2 or 3 strands, pushed on the knee and been able to keep moist and create this roundness with the person's knee. It creates long-term threads which can join together, which can be made into ropes and other fibres. There is a variety of ways in which the things that we see around us are used, so the technology is used. For example, this Banksia that I have is used as a hairbrush in a previous time. All of those sort of things are just something which we would normally not consider in our world. We think we've got to make an object for it, whereas the object is actually provided by nature. You'll find also that we have lots of other objects which are used for the creation of jewellery. Shells are taken of various types. Shells are sharpened, shells are used as knife surfaces, and they may be used, for example, in circumcision. Shells are used as in particles, and those particular particles, say of this southern shell, is then used to be able to be part of hair decoration, part of beard decoration, and be able to use our physical environment in a very, very recyclable way, and to be able to be very sustainable in terms of our usage at any time. This is a good example of a digging stick, obviously been redesigned, a hardwood material, very effective, a woman's tool to be able to be held upon, to be able to dig. And in modern times, you'll find women digging with a crowbar to be able to do the same tasks as this. In the times where the rocks were made available in the area that you were travelling, you may have found that the typical tool looked more like this. And this was a stone tool which has been modified for that particular purpose. It has a grip. I'm right-handed, so it has a grip on here, and it's used as a digging tool. So if I was after a larger animal, for example a rabbit in today's terms, this would be the tool that I'd use, or more effectively a crowbar. Or if I was in the past and I was after the root of a particular fern, then this is the tool that's there. Interesting that many of our stone tools are made to be used right-handed, or they're made to be used left-handed in the same situation. So able to be used in many, many different ways, and it depends in society as to the nature of the gender of the user of that particular tool. Fire is a major part of our technology. The Yugambeh word Waibara is one of those good examples of how fire has many, many names throughout Australia. Fire is a technology. It's being used to create an environment and to change our environments, to create food, and also use fire to manage both vegetation and animals. Plants are a particularly important part of the diet of Aboriginal people. The technology, which looks very simple, which is a grinding stone like this has been used for many generations, ground on one side and then used, returned and ground on the other side. Using grass seeds on a larger stone, and being able to use that circular motion, that push of our elbow and the power which we create that. The grinders come in many shapes and forms, and then the rounded grinders are used for different versions of our seed. As a right-handed person, I can find this grip is particularly good, so it has been used with the flat surface to grind before. You'll find also that on some of the medicines, different types of rocks that are used. This is a particularly hard conglomerate rock, and it has been used specifically for the grinding of medicines, which tend to be a little bit more poisonous, and you cannot then therefore mix that with something which is going to be used to make flour. Food preparation is particularly important. This is an example of a black bean seed. If we take this is the outer husk. If we take that particular seed and we do not prepare it, it is highly toxic. If we take it and we grind it with a grinder like this, take it onto a large stone, keep on grinding it until it becomes a chopped, pulverised material, place it in the water for a number of days, a minimum of 48 hours, take it back out again and again, grind it, be able to make sure it's washed clearly, and you'll be able to make your flour. When we walk across country, we may find various things. This, for example, is an implement which is a digging instrument, and it's been made for my right hand, but also it can be made for my left. So it's a very useful implement, but it is a tool of the past. It belongs to the heritage of this country. It needs to be taken and left after you've had a look at it. Perhaps photograph it, and you'll find that there are many, many millions of artefacts that exist scattered across our continent. It's very significant to maintain this particular object on country. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples really have a deep cultural and spiritual connection with land. That cultural and spiritual connection comes from an understanding of what is above and coming down to land, so stories reflect that. Stories reflect the opportunity for all of us to be able to understand that relationships between beings and the animals and plants, the rivers, that connect through fire, that connect through land itself, that makes our world. It's exceptionally important for all of us to be able to appreciate those deep cultural, spiritual connections at all stages of our environment. We don't own the land owns us. It's an understanding which is so deep and so heartfelt that it is a part of your total physical and emotional health to be on country and to be able to understand how your country is going to change into the future. Join us in part 2 of this episode when we have the chance to examine different technologies and think about how those technologies have changed over time.